If losing weight fixed how you feel about your body, I would have been the happiest woman alive at 128 pounds, lean, shredded, and in contest shape. However, that's when I was the most miserable I have ever been in my entire life. Welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. If you're new here, my name's Diane Flores. I am an IFBB Bodybuilding Pro. I've done 16 shows. I've been in the health and fitness industry for over 20 years. I have nothing fitnessy to sell you, FYI. But today I'm going to talk to you about what this actually looked like at me being my smallest. And I don't mean just the photos. I mean what was actually happening to my body and my brain while everybody was telling me that I looked incredible. Strap in, let's get started. This is for the woman who has been saying, oh, I will do this after I lose 10 pounds, or you've been putting off things in your life for years based on how your body looks. If that's you, please stick with me. Or if you know somebody, or if this sounds familiar, if you're a coach in this space, this is a very impactful episode. It's probably going to be a bit of a tearjerker for me because it's got a lot of real life experience, and I've got the receipts to tell you that on the other side, that doesn't magically just give you this like happiness factor that is all sunshine and rainbows. I think every woman assumes that when she gets small enough that the happiness will then arrive, right? Like if you can fit into a specific size or fit into a pair of jeans, or the scale reflects back a number that you automatically assume is going to make you happy. And that is really the farthest thing from the truth. I've been there. I got that. I accomplished that. The smallest, leanest, most praised version of me that existed with all the trophies, I've been there, and let me tell you, I'm reporting back from the other side, okay? Now, let me just paint a picture of what 128 pounds actually look like for me. And for some of you, if you're a smaller framed woman, right, you're more petite, that actually might seem pretty heavy for you. But for myself, the last time I weighed 128 pounds was when I was probably in about 5th grade. So that wasn't something that was normal for me. I typically was weighing about, high 130s and low 140s throughout middle school and high school. And then eventually like 150s kind of became my normal set point. And I wasn't an athlete, so this wasn't something like, oh, well, maybe she played sports or anything like that. No, this is just genetics speaking, okay? Healthy body weight, but 128, that's not normal. That's not a normal set point for me ever. Now, this was during my bikini phase when I was doing bikini competitions. I started out as a figure competitor, and my lowest that I ever got was when I transitioned over to doing bikini competitions. Now, if you're familiar with the bodybuilding industry, 128 pounds is actually pretty heavy for a bikini competitor unless you're really, really tall. I'm 5'4", 5'5", depending on who's measuring me. And so for me, that was a really, really low body weight. I lost my period. That was very difficult because that also comes with messing with your hormones, clearly. And so with your hormones being skewed from losing your period, that's going to have a lot of different negative side effects. I was losing my hair, I was really cold, and the extended duration of these diets then affected my thyroid. So not only that, I was cold all the time, right? So yeah, I was shredded and lean, but I was in the summertime going everywhere, still wearing a sweater or a hoodie, or I had it with me because I was uncomfortably cold. And a lot of times that was just because my body fat was so low, and also because it was greatly affecting my thyroid. Now, these were sort of the physical notable things, but aside from that, I was a grumpy ass bitch, okay? I was not pleasant to be around most of the time, specifically if I was in prep and nearing probably like 8 weeks out and lower. So if I was under 8 weeks out, I was miserable. I had children at the time, during a lot of my competing stints. And I also missed out on a lot. I was packing my Tupperware everywhere I was going. If we were going out to restaurants, I was obnoxiously ordering everything with like dry, no oils, no seasonings, steamed veggies and things like that, just to kind of be part of the experience. And there's a lot of competitors out there that like to act like they're unaffected by this, but I would beg to differ on that being a true statement, because I've done it 16 times. I've coached lots of women to stage, and there are recurring themes that come up. And so it's not isolated to just me. Now, while all of this is going on, and if you are somebody who has either done a competition or you have done some kind of extreme dieting, you start to notice compliments, right? People are starting to compliment you. And that is generally one of the things that also feeds the beast, right? Mentally, you're like, okay, people are noticing, you're liking the attention, you're getting stares, maybe you're taking more selfies, you're posting more on social media. And that was the offset for me, aside from the obvious, right? Which was getting to stage and competing and doing well, which is, not always the case for some people. And I didn't do well every single show I competed in. Some shows I didn't place depending on what, category I was competing in. But nonetheless, that was what was feeding the beast. Now, again, I was really just jonesing on the compliments, right? Because that was coming in really quickly, especially because at the time I was personal training. I had my personal training studio, my fitness studio. And so a lot of women were noticing that. And again, I was fucking fist deep in bodybuilding. No, knuckle deep. I don't know. I was so far up bodybuilding's asshole that I was just regurgitating this and coaching women through this. And a lot of times noticing that women were also struggling, because at first I thought, well, maybe this is just me, right? But then as I started coaching women, I started seeing, okay, there's a trend here. Women are really struggling with the dieting piece of it and staying on track. And, I just want to make note that when you are in the thick of it and people are praising you, that is a broken metric to decide whether or not to continue doing it, because that is short-lived, and you then are really doing it for the feedback, honestly, for the acknowledgement of others. And this is just kind of like a red flag, but let me just tell you, when you're doing this because the compliments are at like peak capacity, right? Notice that they're at peak when you are likely your least healthy. If you are going through some kind of extreme dieting phase, or you are doing something like bodybuilding, right? So I just want to make this very known, not for any other reason, for just don't let other people's reactions and comments measure whether or not you're okay, because deep down, for those of you that have done this, you know that it is affecting oftentimes mental health, okay? Now, the $1 million question, was it worth it for the reflection in the mirror? No, it was not, because I'm on the other side of it. I'm going to tell you, coming out of it was extremely, extremely difficult. Not only that, when I'm speaking for myself, but I do know that I've seen this with a lot of clients and a lot of women in the bodybuilding world and in this sort of health and fitness space, where they're just really chasing a number on a scale, or they're really trying to get, really, really small, is when I would look in the mirror, specifically after I did my first bodybuilding show, because let me just back up a little bit. When I did my first bodybuilding show, I didn't know what I didn't know. Okay. There was nobody talking about body dysmorphia or really how bodybuilding affected your health, not only from your physical health, but your mental health. All I saw was the shredded bodies and how cool it was, and getting on stage and people winning and things like that. And I thought, wow, I would really love to do this. This is a bucket list goal for me. But I'm going to tell you that after that first bodybuilding show, I was wrecked. Okay. Because every other time I went into a contest prep, or when I looked in the mirror, I was constantly comparing myself against that stage lean body. And so anything that did not look like that, in my head, I was fat and I was not good enough. Okay. So this was something that plagued me for many, many years. And in fact, it actually fueled me to continue to do more shows, because I would think to myself, okay, well, if I just do another show, I can get back in stage lean shape, and then I can maintain it. Spoiler alert, it's not realistic. Okay. So if you think that you're going to be able to maintain your bodybuilding physique, you are going to be greatly disappointed. Now, I know there is a whole host of things out there right now that a lot of bodybuilders are utilizing to help them through contest prep, things like peptides and things of that nature. And that's an entirely different conversation. But let me just say that when you come off a peptide, what do you think's going to happen? Okay? Yeah, rebounding. So When it comes to the body dysmorphia side of things, what this actually looks like and feels like is a funhouse mirror, right? Like I don't know if you remember back in the day when you go to the carnival or, whatever circus, and you're in the funhouse and you're looking in a funhouse mirror and you're like, whoa, that's not what I look like, right? Like everything is distorted. When you have seen your body at these like really unrealistic and unattainable sort of levels that are specifically only for that goal, anything else in the mirror you are going to be comparing against, and it is going to feel like a massive mental fuck for you, okay? Now, as I went through this journey and I got on stage time after time, I did 16 shows, many different categories within these shows. So when you go and compete, you sometimes are on stage more than once competing against different bodies and different categories, just depending, right? They have like a category for women over 30. They have a category for women over 40. They have an open category. They have a novice category. There's all these different categories. So I could very well do one show, but be on stage, anywhere from 1 to 4 different times, just depending on where I was in my bodybuilding journey. And that right there was what I was doing it for. But what we have to remember is that just that it wasn't in a vacuum, right? Like it wasn't just that day isolated and then, that happiness carried on after the show. What a lot of people aren't talking about is after they come off of a giant goal, and this doesn't have to be just bodybuilding. This could be something like, a lot of women, especially in the new year, will just be like, oh, I'm going to do this thing and get my shit together, right? I'm going to get on my shit. I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm going to do whatever the newest trend is to lose a bunch of weight. And they go really, really hardcore. And it's not to say that you might not feel great during part of this or whatnot, but a lot of times when you're chasing something like a scale goal or a certain size, that you're trying to achieve, maybe you're like, oh, I'm trying to get the body I had when I got married or when I was in college or at the height of my, athletic endeavors when you were maybe like in some kind of sports or something. The reality of it is that was likely to serve a purpose in that time in your life, and you're not the same person, right? And so a lot of times I would win, and then at the end of that, I would come off stage and I would immediately be panicked. Because I had already done it. So after the first time, I knew, okay, here we go, right? And I would have the same conversation with myself every time, thinking, okay, this time's going to be different. I'm not going to go and eat a bunch of crap, right? Like that would only last so long, and for multiple reasons. One being like the level of body fat and the leanness that was achieved was not realistic and not something that is sustainable and should be sustainable, especially for women, right? There's unhealthy levels of body fat in both directions, too low or too high. And when you do something extreme, like taking on some kind of challenge or diet, or you try to do a bodybuilding show, you are swinging really hard in the unhealthy direction from a body fat's perspective, and also mentally, right? What this is going to do to you mentally. So while I got the smallest I'd ever been, the voice doesn't stop, right? It gets louder, especially afterwards. Because let me tell you, especially for women who are just really just trying to get a handle on their health or nutrition and a healthy level of body fat, there's always that last 10 pounds, right? Like I found myself saying this the other day, and that's really what sort of spawned this podcast, is because my girlfriend was here for a few days and we were talking, and I thought, and I was just telling her, I said, I'm really thinking I want to drop 10 pounds. And then I had to like smack myself upside the head, because this is the healthiest I've ever felt. My blood work is great. My body fat is healthy. My BMI, on the other hand, tells me that I'm overweight, which we're going to get there. But this is what we're plagued by, right? Like I need to lose that last 10 pounds. I need to lose another 10 pounds, and then I'll be happy. And then that's when I'll start living life. And that's when I'll, take the chances. And that's when I'll start dating. And that's when I'll leave my husband, and, all those things. But let me tell you, the goalpost is going to constantly be moving every single time. Every time you're just moving that goalpost further and further, and you're chasing something, but honestly, it's built to keep moving, right? This goalpost is constantly moving. Now, let's talk about what gaining back weight feels like and being a healthy body fat feels like, because I feel like it could be really perceived as like, oh, that's great, you're a healthy body fat, you're no longer bodybuilding, right? You come out of this dieting sprint or dieting spree and you're in a healthy body fat. But let me tell you, that was incredibly difficult. I found myself oftentimes struggling with my mental health post-show because I felt like something was wrong with me. I thought, well, why can't I just maintain like this super lean, shredded look and be able to do this, right? Like, I'm in the health and fitness industry. I've been doing this for 20 years. Like, I see other women that are doing it, but I know that a lot of them are not having these honest fucking conversations that I'm having with you right now, okay? Because living a life where your constant mental real estate is occupied by, when is your next meal? How many grams of carbs are in that? Did I track all of these bites, licks, and tastes? And oh my gosh, I fucked up this weekend and now Monday I need to, go hard in the paint, like the kids used to say, and start the diet over. And oh my gosh, I'm going to get back on my shit at the first of the month, right? Like, we're constantly moving the goalpost around because what we're doing is not realistic and it's not sustainable, and it is not serving us, not only from a health perspective, but also from a mental health perspective. Now, at some point during my journey, when I decided I didn't want to compete anymore, I stopped tracking macros, I stopped counting calories, I started listening to my body, and I just fucking ate my face off. And I actually had a consultation with a psychologist who works with women in sort of these phases, because I knew that I was battling many things. One, my hormones were a wreck. I had competed for so long that everything was essentially on fire, for lack of better words. And what I decided to do was just listen to my body. If I was hungry, I ate. If I wasn't, I didn't. And I was also working with fixing my hunger hormones. So if you find that you feel like what I would call a bottomless pit, where I just felt like I had a hollow leg and I can keep shoveling food in there and put a grown-ass man to shame, this might be an indication that we need to see what's going on and check under the hood, right? You guys know I'm a huge proponent of that. Like, if something feels off, the check engine lights are just everywhere, then it's time to look into getting some blood work and really outsourcing what you can't see. And so that's what I did. And essentially my hunger hormones were completely skewed, and I needed to allow myself to just follow the hunger. And I did. And it was difficult. And I cried a lot, and I got frustrated because my clothes weren't fitting. I felt bloated. I felt squishy and mushy, and all the things that we use to describe our bodies when they aren't seemingly doing what we want them to do. Now, nobody doesn't tell you this, right? Like, I was on a journey to repairing not only my body, but also physically my body, but also my relationship with my body. And right now, I have done a fantastic job at curating my Instagram feed, my social media feed, because I don't want to see fucking bodybuilding shit, right? Like, my daughter's a bodybuilder. That's about the most of it. My youngest son is probably going to bodybuild, and that's it. But I am not interested in following these extreme and unrealistic portrayals of health and wellness. And I really urge you, if you find that your feed is really making you feel worse because you can't keep up with what some of these Instagram, influencers, if there's health and fitness influencers, if you can't keep up with that and it's constantly putting you in comparison mode, go unfollow them, mute them, do what you need to do. Because honestly, the stuff that keeps coming up is going to be a reminder to you, and it's going to continue to pull you down. Now, as far as the hard and fast numbers, what's interesting to me is when I was at my smallest on the scale, which was 128 pounds, I was probably 6 or 7% body fat. I remember testing it back in the day religiously. And now I'm between 165 and 170 pounds, which might sound like a lot to some of you. But here's what I want you to understand, okay? The scale is kind of like, it's archaic. Okay. I'm just going to be so for real with you. I'm not saying that it doesn't serve its place in your health data, but it is for me one of the least important. Okay. Now, what is more important is that you're getting an accurate representation of your health. And the scale is just a snapshot in time whenever you stand on that thing to tell you your relation to gravity at that given moment. And it can be wildly varying depending on many, many factors. All right. Again, how many hours you've slept, how much sodium you've had, how many meals you've had, have you pooped today, have you peed today, how much sleep have you had, what are your hormones doing right now, where are you at in your cycle, like so many things. And so I don't take that as the holy grail anymore, right? I get on a couple times per week. I kind of keep an eye on it, but what I'd rather you do is go and do something like a DEXA scan. Now, listen, I know it's a little bit of an investment. You're going to have to pay for it. You might have, if you have an HSA, it might be something that qualifies through an HSA, quite frankly, but find a reputable person or business locally where you can go and have a DEXA scan done. And let me tell you, if you're over 40, I'm speaking to you even more so because this is going to give you more of a path to follow when it comes to being empowered for your decisions with your health and wellness. Okay. Because some of you are coming to me and being like, well, I have one of those fancy scales and I get on it and it tells me, my body fat. Bitch, do you think that thing is like laser beaming through your body when you stand on it? No. I did a test. I went to Max Muscle. I think it was called, Max Muscle, during one of my contest prep phases. Okay. I was probably about 3 or 4 weeks out from a show. At the time, I was probably like 9% body fat. I went into a Max Muscle and I used one of their little like fancy scales there that they have that you like hold onto the handles and you step on it and you plug your data in there, like how old you are, how, your height and all that shit. And I did it twice. Okay. I did it once. I stepped off of it and I did it again. And it gave me 2 different readings. Okay. 2 very drastically different readings. I don't trust that fucking shit. So if you're over 40, you really should be looking at your bone density at this point because you don't want to be that frail ass grandma who falls down and breaks a hip or a femur or, any of that stuff. And so bone density is huge. So I've had 2 DEXA scans. My body fat percentage is 24%, which is athletic. And especially at our age, that's actually really great. And my lab work looks fantastic. My bone density is excellent. But you want to look at those numbers and you want to use that to make your decisions, okay? You want to look at your bone density. If your bone density is of concern, then we need to start troubleshooting, right? If your bone density doesn't look great, your body fat percentage is high, we need to look at your strength training. We need to look at your hormones. We need to look a little bit deeper than like, let me just go fucking poke a peptide, right? Like that's everybody's answer to everything right now. And let me tell you, it's enticing. It's attractive. Trust me. I've definitely been, very, very curious to say like, wow, I could just poke a peptide and solve some problems. But again, it's a Band-Aid to a much deeper issue because you're not going to be fixing anything at this point other than just dropping some body fat. But if you're not taking care of your health by way of strength training and your hormones and things like that, it's going to mask so many other problems. So right now, my BMI calls me overweight. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with what BMI is one of the metrics that the, health industry has created to help us understand if we're overweight or not. It's very fucking outdated. I don't even know why it's still being used at this point, especially with just the advances in technology and things like a DEXA scan. Because when I went to go get my DEXA scan, I have it actually right here. It shows you many different things. It shows you, hold on, let me pull it out. I have it at my desk because I like to go every 6 months and I'm about ready to do it again. It'll tell you your BMI. My BMI is 28, and that is considered on the high end of overweight, nearing obesity. Okay? This is fucking wild to me. My body fat percentage is 24% as of this last test that I did. All right. That is considered an athletic level of body fat, specifically for somebody who's nearing 50. Then they go into things like your Z score, your T score, your bone, which measures your bone density and all that fun stuff. So these are all important numbers to have. So that way, again, you can make decisions from a logical place instead of like, let me just take this pill, or let me just poke this peptide, or let me just jump on this new fitness trend, right? I think there's so much out there, and there's so much that's coming at us at any given moment, especially if you are on social media and you are interacting with any kind of health and fitness content. You're going to be served up a lot from the algorithm, and you're going to be tempted, right? You're going to see these before and afters. You're going to see testimonials. You're going to see all this stuff. You're going to see shiny objects of women looking fantastic. And I'm going to tell you, that's just a snapshot of what's going on with that specific person. And don't make it personal about you. Go and arm yourself with data. BMI is just going to be one small piece of this, again, like the scale. And body, it stands for body mass index. And quite frankly, I call it the bullshit metric indicator. I think that's what BMI should really fucking stand for. Let's be so for real. And it's, again, measuring your height and your weight. And that's what it's coming up with to give you an idea of where you fall on this scale. Don't take that shit personal. Go get a DEXA scan. Okay, DEXA is one of the most accurate forms of figuring out what your body fat percentage is, and it's super important to understand that, right? Because when your body fat percentage is too high, then you're at risk for certain metabolic diseases and diseases in general. And so you want to keep that in a healthy level. Listen, I'm all for fucking love yourself, right? Love your body, self-love, body love, 1,000%. But let's not neglect the conversation of health in this body love conversation, because that's also very important. Y'all want to be here a long time. It's not just about looking good. It's about actually living a long time. It's longevity. It's quality of life. And if your numbers aren't reflecting that, again, then this is where you start getting proactive and making it less about, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, or, oh my gosh, I want to look like I did when I was married, when I first got married, or when I was in college, right? Like, you're fucking smart, bitch. Listen, you're listening to me. You're listening. You're a smart motherfucking bitch. And so let's not make stupid decisions when it comes to our health and fitness. Now, I'm guilty as fuck. I did bodybuilding 16 times. I am now in the job of talking people out of it. I'm trying to talk my daughter out of it. I'm trying to talk my son out of it. I'm like, listen, I'm on the other side of it. And this is it's honestly, building is cringy to me. I'm going to be so for real with you. Like, I'm not saying that I didn't love aspects of it, because I absolutely did. Like, the stage is so much fun to me. Like, being able to be essentially like the artist of your own body is how I envisioned part of the process, right? Is figuring out every time that I went on stage and I stripped my body fat down to like looking like a fucking science anatomy chart, and looking at my body and saying like, okay, this is where I could grow some more muscle, or this is where I could drop some muscle so I can look more balanced for the sport of bodybuilding. But at the end of the day, it's so cringy and it's so subjective. And I do feel like there's a little bit of politics to it. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's political, but I do think that there is a level, once you get into the higher up levels of bodybuilding, that there is a piece of it that is just naturally political because of certain reasons I'm not going to get into, because then I'm just going to be here for another 30 minutes. But again, that was the goal. The goal is done. I never want to do it again. And it's, it's cool for what it is and all of that fun stuff. But again, like, it's not worth it. The juice is not worth the fucking squeeze. So here's what I want for you to take away from this episode, okay? As you get smaller, right? If this is your goal, and listen, again, I'm not here to judge anybody's goals, but I am going to tell you that if you're doing this simply to chase a number on the scale and you think it's going to make you happier, I'm going to tell you that it's going to maybe quiet one voice, but another voice is going to get really, really loud. And it's the voice of body dysmorphia. It's the voice of comparison. It's the voice of constantly being plagued by juggling what you're able to do based on the diet that you're on and the restriction that you're on and the things that you're missing out on. And I think that there is a world that exists where you can have a happy balance, but a lot of times it's not the attractive route. And that's not what people want to hear. They don't want the Goldilocks route. They don't want to just strength train, do the appropriate amount of cardio for heart health and to maintain, like to help with longevity. They don't want to do just the boring. We want like the silver bullet, like what's going to get us there the fastest. And that's oftentimes the fastest path to the unhealthy route. And I'm going to tell you the second thing is, if you're noticing that compliments are peaking when you are probably your least healthy, which for me was, again, being in these contest prep phases, or maybe you are on some kind of peptide and you're losing rapid amount of weight and people are noticing, right? That also should be a sign, right? Like, okay, this is probably like, yeah, it's feeding my ego, but also like, what are you dealing with on the flip side of this, right? I don't want you to let praise from other people be the metric that keeps you going in that direction. And the last thing, and probably the most important thing, is that a lot of times women postpone their life for a number that can't actually deliver what you think it will, right? Like you're postponing your life, you're postponing your happiness. I'll do the thing when I lose this weight. I'll wear the bikini when I lose 5 pounds. I'll wear the bikini when I lose 10 pounds. I'll wear the tank tops when my arms are leaner, right? When you get there, trust me when I tell you that it's not going to deliver what you think it's going to deliver you. And oftentimes you're still going to see things wrong with yourself, right? There were times when I was at my leanest and I still thought I was fat. And I remember saying that out loud, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm still fat, because by bodybuilding terms, I technically was. I was still too fat to compete. But the reality of it is I was actually an unhealthy level of low body fat. Now, I want you to think about not only yourself, but maybe a friend of yours or somebody you love that is not going to maybe book the photos until she loses 10 pounds. She's not going to go on the trip until she loses 10 pounds. She doesn't want to do anything until she loses the weight, right? She won't wear the swimsuit. She's not going to go to the reunion. She's not going to be in the pictures with her kids, things like that, right? Like, oh, all after I lose weight. Right? And she's been saying that for years. I want you to think about that woman, because silently she's letting her life pass her by simply because of a number on the scale or a skewed perception of something she's seeing in the mirror. I want you to send her this episode because I am on the other side of that, right? I'm on the other side of that 10 pounds. I got 40 pounds past it, all right? And I'm telling you, there's nothing fucking there. Right? It's not going to wage my decision to do any of those things, because I know when I was 128 pounds, those voices were still so fucking loud. They were still so loud. And so if she is the friend, right? What's the one thing that she's been postponing? What has she been postponing? Tell her to go do it at the size she is right now, because life is too fucking short to only wait until you're 128 pounds to actually do the fun shit, to wear the fun thing, and to live in your body and be happy in it. And if you're listening and you're still in it, and you're not just being hard on yourself, but you're actually like in the fucking thick of it, okay? I had someone reach out to me in my DMs last week. She's been a follower for many, many years, and she doesn't comment or send me DMs often, but she sent me a DM the other day, and she's suffering and dealing with severe anorexia, okay? If this is you and you are dealing with any kind of eating disorder or disordered eating of any kind, please talk to somebody about it. And if you aren't sure where to start, honestly, a great resource is the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. They have a helpline staffed by licensed clinicians. Now, I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I just felt like I needed to make this disclaimer for anybody who might be listening. I know this is a very sensitive subject, so I will make sure that we link up the actual alliance in the show notes so you can check it out, because there is no version of this where reaching out makes you weak, okay? This is not a weakness. This is a severe issue that needs to be addressed so you can have some mental peace and actually live your life, because life is too fucking short. All right. I love you. I hope to see you over on Instagram or the newsletter. If you're not on the newsletter, I go a little bit deeper there. I share some more like behind the scenes LOLs, but we'll link that up in the show notes as well. And I love you. You're worth it. And I'll see you on the next episode.